Today I'd like to provide you with step-by-step instructions for placing a survival cache using the secret multi-cache method that I outlined in the previous video called Geocaching for Preppers. I brought along my little geocaching bag. This is the Maxpedition Jumbo VersaPack. It has all the normal geocaching supplies that you'd want. It has a compass, a GPS unit, logbook, some swag, things like that. So we're going to go out and I'll show you step-by-step on how I place a survival cache using the hidden geocache that has an embedded message to lead me to the actual survival cache. So let's get started with this video. I like thinking about this process as a two-phase process, where the first phase is where you're going to be placing the stage one of your multi-cache. That's just going to look like a normal geocache by all accounts. It's going to have the logbook in it, just a little message for any geocachers that might happen to find it, although hopefully no one does. And then the second phase is where you're actually burying your survival cache. So I'm not going to really go into the details on where you should put a survival cache. That's going to be, kind of your decision. Maybe that'll be covered in the future. This is just going to show you the strategy of placing it using the methods that were outlined in the previous video. After you've selected the general area for placing your geocache, now it's time to select an exact location. So you should, it's just best just kind of walk around a little bit and find a place that you think would be good for storing it, that's going to be discreet, where no one's really going to notice you. As you can see, there are people in the area that I'm at. I think it's very important to choose your attire wisely. So don't be dressing up in any kind of camouflage or in a ninja outfit or anything like that. You want to just look like a nerdy geocacher that's just out looking for a particular cache. So even wear a geocaching shirt, I think, would be a good, smart move for placing your survival cache. I haven't quite settled on a place yet because I'm looking for an area that has a little bit of dirt. Since I will be digging, I don't want it to stick out just because there's so much grass in the particular area that I'm at. This little spot here looks like it'd be a good place to eventually place this survival cache. Here's a spot that I think I'll go with for this particular cache. There's a small little hole in this tree that you see here. It's around, I don't know, 50 feet or so away from that last location that I showed you that I thought might be a good spot to bury it. So what I'm going to do is do a little micro cache. I'm going to use, it's actually made by a True Utility. It's a little True Utility cache stash. I'm going to roll up this little geocache logbook in here, and then I'm going to place it down in there. I took the keyring part of it off of this the cache stash, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Urban Altoids EDC 10 version 2.1, and I'm going to grab some string out of there and use that to kind of lower it into that hole, and then I'll have some kind of attachment that you could actually grab onto. I have this Teflon string right now wrapped around the big lighter, so I'm going to use a little bit of that. Okay, here's the little geocache that I'm going to place in the hole over here. It's tied onto a little piece of stick using the Teflon string. Okay, my stage one for my secret multi-cache is complete. Let me show you what it looks like. So in this little hole here, I have the stick's tied onto the Teflon string. I'll pull it out, and there's the geocache on the True Utility cache stash. So if anyone were to find this, they would just open it up and they would find the little mini logbook in there, and I'd probably just sign it and go on to the next cache. So this is stage one of my multi-cache. So it's nearby to the actual location where I'd like to place my survival cache. So let me put this back really quick. So the next step is to record the exact location of this particular stage one multi-cache into your logbook. Use your GPS unit or even a compass, and just get it as exact as possible, because this is going to be the actual location that you're going to be putting in your disaster plan or in your GPS unit that's part of your bug out bag, for example. So I would actually approach this from several different angles. I recommend going at least north, south, east, west to it, if not about 7 different angles to get to it, just so you have the exact coordinates for this. If you don't want to use coordinates, if you'd rather use a method that's going to rely on a compass, for those that are worried about a GPS satellites going down, you could do that method too, and just have maybe more of a written description of the exact location of it. So you might want to mention something about a tree that's split that's next to a little log that's on the ground, for example. And so that's the next step that you're going to want to do. You want to make sure that these are exact. Now that we've recorded the exact locations into our logbook, it's time to place our actual survival cache in the survival cache location that we predetermined earlier. So the steps that we've taken so far, I like to consider phase one of hiding the survival cache using the secret multi-cache method. So at this point, what you can do if you're on a family geocaching adventure, you just move on to the next geocaching location, maybe even find a couple geocaches while you're here in this area. And if you want to, at a separate phase, or in the same phase if you're by yourself, you could go back and actually place the survival cache. So let's move on now to phase two, in which we'll be placing the survival cache. The first step of phase 2 is to create your actual survival cache. This particular one is just an example to use for this video. It's just filled with a bunch of different non-perishable food. It has some emergency food ration bars, made by SOS. It also has the Millennium bars, the individual one, as well as a Datrex bar, and it has a little Eaton radio in there as well. This isn't, again, it's not an actual one. I'm just using it for demo purposes because I'm not actually going to bury this long term in this particular location. I highly recommend going with a transparent container if you can. You might spend a little bit more money than what you would for a PVC survival tube, but because it's not opaque, so it's transparent, you can see all the contents in it. You're not going to have to worry as much about anyone retrieving this and maybe misconceiving it for something that it's not. Like if it was, they might think that a PVC survival tube is an explosive device, the bomb squad comes in, you might have some legal trouble at your hands. You do not want that. So this is a clear container. This would adhere to geocaching rules as well. So, and this one's watertight. There's not really a whole bunch of metal exposed to it. You don't need any kind of special equipment to open it. Like the PVC survival tube, you're going to need a wrench to open it. Some other cache containers, you may need a screwdriver. This one's real nice and easy. You could just buy it and just place all the equipment in here. But in a separate video, I'm actually going to be doing a comparison of multiple alternative storage containers for your survival cache other than the PVC method. So that'll be for the next video. So that's the first step, is create your survival cache. The next step is to determine the strategy that you want to use for encrypting or embedding the hidden information that's going to be inside of stage 1 to help you find stage 2, which is located over here. So I think for this particular survival cache, since it's so small, it's kind of a micro-sized container, I'm going to go with the invisible ink method, where I'll write the actual coordinates for the survival cache, which is going to be here, onto the logbook that's as part of the stage 1 secret little geocache that you see over there. You could also do it with more of a verbal method or write down actual instructions. For example, right here you see 2 paths that are leading to one. It kind of makes a little Y formation here. You might be able to use that to describe the exact location where this is. Especially for those that are concerned about satellites not being available. You could use that doing the old-fashioned compass method and just kind of a verbal description for you. But you could also do that with the invisible ink method. So that's the next step for phase 2. The next thing that you'll need to do is actually bury your survival cache. So one thing I like about this little Max Mission Jumbo VersaPack is that it has this little concealed carry pouch that you see here, and it's a great little pouch for fitting. This is a U.S. military original entrenching tool. It's an awesome little shovel that you could carry with you. It's built extremely well, and this is what I like using for geocaching or for survival caching, for burying your actual survival caches. As you can see, it extends out to a nice size for burying a hole. So you just want to make sure that no one's around while you're doing this, for example, and then just kind of dig your hole. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dig the hole right around here, and then I'm going to move this log that you see here over it just to help hide it a little bit more. So let me bury a hole for the survival cache. Since this isn't going to be an actual survival cache, I'm not going to make the hole as deep as normally I would. Normally I would like to have it a lot deeper than that. I'm just going to use this as an example. So what I'm going to do next is just start covering up the GSI Outdoors Gearbox Extra Large with some dirt. Alright, so I have a thin layer of dirt covering up the survival cache. So at this point, what I like to do is bury what I call a red herring. So basically, I like to place little pieces of metal above the survival cache, just in case there happens to be someone with a metal detector that's happening to look around here, and maybe they might find something that's in the cache. So I want something that might throw them off a little bit. Please keep in mind that metal detectors, some of the nicer ones, often are able to tell the different types of metals that are buried there and give off a different beep code. So you might want to take that into account when you're placing your red herring. In this particular example, all I'm going to do is just place a few old screws and bolts and things like that just over here. Alright, so I placed those old screws over the cache right now to use as a red herring. So let me cover it up with some more dirt. Again, for a real survival cache, you're going to want to bury this a lot deeper than this and have, multiple inches or centimeters thick worth of dirt above your survival cache. This is just an example though. Now that it's completely buried, I'm just going to cover it up with some miscellaneous leaves and twigs and things like that, just to make it blend it a little bit more, since there is some fresh dirt that's out and about. Rather than moving this entire log, I think I'm just going to move this big one that you see right over here and place it over the survival cache. Just take that log, put it right there. You could also, place a large rock over it or anything that someone probably is not going to want to move. At this point, you're going to want to use your GPS unit again, or your compass, and you're going to get the exact location of your survival cache. Again, use the same method as before, so approach it from multiple different angles, because there are some trees over here. You don't want those, altering the exact coordinates. So I would approach it from multiple angles like this, coming at it this way, and just get the exact GPS coordinates of it, or do some kind of written description of where to find it. Now that you have the actual coordinates written down, you're going to want to go back to your stage 1 of your secret multi-cache and put those coordinates or the actual description and embed it into either the logbook or some other piece of paper that happens to be in there to help get you back to the actual stage 2 survival cache. So you could do that in a whole different day if you want to. You could use Photoshop and print something real fancy, use the micro embedded text like I showed in the previous video, Geocaching for Preppers, and do that method. But anyway, you're going to want to put the coordinates that you have here and put them in there, because that's going to be what you're going to actually have in your GPS unit or in your disaster plan. You're not going to have the actual coordinates for that over there, because if anyone were to obtain your GPS unit or your disaster plan, they would have all your survival caches. So this is just a method to help prevent that. At this point, you're done hiding your secret survival cache. You have your survival cache buried over here. You even have a red herring on top of it, just in case anyone with a metal detector happens to go through this area. And you have the coordinates to that actual survival cache hidden in the stage 1 of your secret multi-cache, which you see over here. This is actually the fun part. It's kind of like, just like geocaching, there's a logbook in there, there's some swag and the whole 9 yards. And if anyone were to happen to find it, they're just going to think it's a geocache and put it back. But secretly, you have the embedded information to the actual coordinates of your survival cache in this little stage 1 micro cache. So at this point, you could pack up all your gear and go along your way. You could even go find a couple geocaches while you're in the area and just have some fun while you're out here. And then you just kind of repeat this process through the multiple locations that you want to have survival cache placed along your bug out route or even outside of your home. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video featuring the step-by-step instructions for actually placing your survival cache using the secret multi-cache method that I outlined in the Geocaching for Preppers video. So if you have any questions regarding the materials that were discussed in this video, make sure you download the PDF document. I provided a link in the description box below. You could download that document. It has all the step-by-step instructions written out there. It also has product links to the products that you saw in this video and the previous video, such as the entrenching tool, the GSI Outdoors gearbox, even the Jumbo Versa packs in there. So I tried to make it real easy for you guys, so if you were interested in anything that was covered in this video, you could just go and download the PDF, click on the link, and you have everything provided there. So please feel free to leave any kind of comments below in the comment section, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Have fun caching. See ya.